Hey Gearheads, and welcome to GT Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I am your host, Cory, and today on the podcast, we are talking all things SEMA and aftermarket modifications to vehicles. You know, on the main channel, I do a lot of new car reviews. That is the bread and butter of what GT Garage Talk has become. But here on the podcast, I really love telling people stories. I like focusing on the industry as a whole. And so today's interview is a lot of that all rolled into one. I do have Tom Gattuso from the SEMA Show here on this episode. He is the vice president of events with SEMA, which for those of you maybe slightly unfamiliar, that is Specialty Equipment Market Association. It started as a business-to-business trade show in the aftermarket space for automotive, and it has grown tremendously. And without stealing any of his thunder, without kind of stepping on his toes of what he wants to share, we'll just go ahead and bring on Tom Gattuso. Well, Tom, it is absolutely great to have you here on the show this week to talk about all things SEMA and the direction that we're headed there. How are you today, sir?
Happy to be here, Cory. We're like 208 days away from the SEMA show right now. So we're really going hard and this is the fun time. So lots of planning going on, but love the opportunity to be able to talk to you and give you an update on what we're doing.
Awesome. We will absolutely dive into that for sure. But I do want to dig in a little bit to your background. You have a very extensive background. I was checking out your LinkedIn profile earlier. You've been very heavily involved in event planning for many years. Show
Yeah.
director for the Off-Road Expo, auto dealer show. So clearly you're involved in automotive, you're involved in event planning. I am now the former president of Texas Auto Writers Association. So I've done my fair share of event planning.
Yeah.
How on earth, what drew you in to this path in automotive, particularly in event planning?
So I decided at a pretty young age that I wanted to work in the automotive industry. And it was this time in the late 80s where the economy was going to kind of going through a shift. I graduated from college and really needed to decide how much I wanted to commit to working around cars or with cars or somewhere in the industry. And I ended up interviewing for a job on the East Coast, and there was a hiring freeze the day that I was hoping to get an offer. So I made a decision. I could have moved to Michigan or I could have moved to California, and California really seemed cool. And at that time, a lot of OEMs were putting headquarters out there, from Lincoln Mercury and Ford to Honda and Toyota and Nissan. So I jumped in and sold everything I owned. I bought a '66 Impala convertible and I drove it across country. And that was meaningful because that was my birth year. So I drove across in this convertible and really just started over, looking for an opportunity in the automobile industry. And I found one out of the blue that was producing auto shows. And literally, I started by selling 10 by 10 booths and sort of built a career from there. But we had a ton of fun. I learned from some really old school people on how to produce a show. And that foundation has really, just kind of skyrocketed my 30-year career on how to do events and where to find the magic in them, on bringing people together.
I'm incredibly jealous of that very long storied career, and sounds like you just kind of got to help direct and set the direction of said industry as you started working through this practically right out of college, right?
Yeah, it was a little bit after college. It was enough time for me to save some money, but yeah, pretty much, I started my career in events and really never looked back. It was a part of the industry I didn't even know existed. I had wanted to work for a manufacturer and do those types of things, but as I was looking for those jobs, I saw an ad in the LA Times of all places, and it was to produce the Long Beach Auto Show and the Orange County Auto Show. There was a small production company that we had. And then I had an opportunity to essentially start the San Jose Auto Show. And I got this little niche of being able to do smaller regional events and really bring people together. And that helped me go into Off-Road Expo, which was sort of a next evolution where we were looking for some opportunities in the off-road industry. I started to work for Advanced Star. And at that point, I had accumulated about 15 years of experience of building events. And it was everything from small regional shows to some B2B events. And I walked into SEMA sort of in the right place in the right time, where I had done everything from producing 200,000 square foot shows that were all under a temporary structure, to doing shows in convention centers. And the SEMA show at the time was really starting to take off and grow. I joined SEMA in about 2011, and we were coming out of the 08-09 recession. And we got to try some cool stuff, and we did a lot of really neat stuff that is still around today. But the foundation of my career of build something anywhere, and no opportunity is too small to bring people together, really helped me with SEMA, and gives it a more personalized approach when we're doing our event.
So your time at Off-Road Expo is about 6 years there.
Yeah.
Off-roading is really, I would say, one of the forefront of the aftermarket experiences right now, or the after purchase experience. Everybody wants a vehicle that either looks or is capable to take it off road, and then they want to fix it up. They want to modify it and make it better. I know here in East Texas that I've got an awesome spot just 1 hour drive from me where I can test everything off road. I love it.
Right.
It's near and dear to me. I almost I'm back and forth whether or not I enjoy on road or off road more, because I fell in love with the Chevy Camaro, and that's my car. But off road just gives so much more fun and excitement to it. So you start off small events, regional events. You build that up into something, then you take this job on at the Off-Road Expo. What are some like key takeaways from your time there, focusing primarily on something that was really growing to this massive behemoth where it is now?
Yeah, so it was interesting because with the off-road industry, it's very close knit, and you really had to be part of it. And that part I enjoyed. And we were at the time looking to roll out more off-road expos. So I actually did one in Houston one year. We did one in Utah as well, in Salt Lake City. But what I noticed was there was this group of people that were Southern California off-roaders. And they were, 16 to 22 years old, and they were spending their paychecks on their pre-runner truck, and they were going out in the desert on the weekends and beating it up and then fixing it during the week, and again spending most of their paycheck on parts. And we brought those guys to our Houston event, and I watched something really interesting happen. The off-roading that happened in Texas was different than what was happening in Southern California. There was a lot of mud and mud bogging and that type of stuff. But the people were very similar. You had these guys and gals that were, in the same age group, and they sort of dressed the same and talked and acted the same. And we brought them together, and it was really neat to watch them say, like, what do you do? You're two-wheel drive? Like, how do you even do two-wheel drive? It's like, oh, because in the desert you do this or that. And they really were swapping notes. And that to me was, and this is, probably 2006, 7 timeframe. That to me showed me that the industry really has a lot of potential, because there's a regionality to all of this stuff. And when you look at the off-roading that happens in Arizona, a lot of times that's sand driven or rock driven when you're in Utah and some of those really beautiful places like Easter Jeep Safari just happened. So that part of it was where it opened my eyes to how big the potential is bringing a community like that together. And then when you look at SEMA as a whole and what we are, we're a nonprofit trade association that represents the industry, and you look at this desire and passion to modify a vehicle, all of a sudden all the stars start to align for me, where it's like, okay, there's an association that's doing things like right now we have a right to modify bill that we're working through, which really is tied into some of the modern ADAS equipment. So it's like, okay, we know people want to lower or lift a truck, and they want to be able to put off-road wheels and tires on it, maybe a winch, but they don't want to sacrifice the safety standards. So we know this passion exists. We're able to talk to the community with our events, but then we can also represent them in DC, and we can do cool stuff like have this right to modify that will allow you the opportunity to modify your car or truck, but still be able to communicate with the ADAS features that the OEM and the safety features that the OEM built in. So for me, it was the best of both worlds, where I got to be able to look at these communities and then pretty much give um, my energy to an association or a company that's really for the continuation of this hobby for decades to come.
I am so glad you brought up the regionality of it all because, again, I'm in East Texas. I've got red dirt, which turns to glue when it gets wet.
Yes.
And where I test, it can be extremely rocky iron ore, or it could be muddy stuff, which is typically what we see a lot of. And then I have been out to Death Valley. I've been out to where I've climbed Chocolate Thunder as part of King of the
Okay.
Hammers, and that is
Yeah.
a totally different. It's the same skill set, but total different application of an off-road vehicle. And riding with Dave Cole as he is just barreling through the
Yeah.
sand dunes is it's fun. It's off-road, but it is so very different from my usual experience here. And
Right.
what you did at Off-Road Expo and what you are doing now through SEMA in bringing these communities together is what I like to hear. That is what I like to focus on here is the human aspect, the people aspect,
Yeah.
and how do vehicles, how do our activities bring us together. So that transitions very nicely. You spent 6 years there at Off-Road Expo, but now
Yeah.
you're deep into SEMA and
Yeah.
making some big changes there. What are some of the Tom G fingerprints that you've left on SEMA in your time so far?
So if I were to identify a Tom G fingerprint with the SEMA show, it really comes down to user experience. And there's a couple different types of events in our industry. You've got consumer events, there's trade events, but then outside of that, there are corporate events. And there's just a different feel for all of those. And at SEMA, we've got people that are on both sides of it. They're in the B2B side, and they may be a tech at a performance shop or a collision repair person. But on the weekends, they've got a dirt bike or a street bike or an off-road vehicle that they go and drive or ride. So they can't help themselves. They do the business in their section, but then they can't help themselves. They go to the truck section or the power sports section. So we know we've got this person that goes on two sides of it, the business side and the recreation side. But the corporate event side for me has always been a push where I want you to feel special and I want you to feel like your association understands you. So when we're doing things like SEMA Central and SEMA Live and some of the programs that we've got, it really is to make people feel like they're part of a community. And we do it in very subtle ways. Like when you come to the SEMA show and you look at our signage, since 2013, we've had an automotive industry artist every 3 years do signage as our show. And we started with Max Grundy, and we went to Ed Tilrock and Alex Carmona, and then Chip Foose, and now we're using Larry Chen photography. But what we saw was something really cool, Corey. People came to the SEMA show and they took some of our signage home. And I've never seen anything like that before. It's one thing if you get inducted to the Hall of Fame, and one day maybe you'll be in the Texas Writers Association Hall of Fame, and you'll take that thing home. But people were taking signs that just had some of our automotive artwork on it. So that let us know that we were doing this thing the automotive industry thought was cool. They just didn't know why. And that to me is one of the things that I really get energized with is these things that help the user experience be special and let people know that there's a community that they're a part of. They get to be in this community for a year and years on years, but for a week, we circle the wagons, we talk about things, about the innovation and where the industry is going. So for me, that's the Tom G fingerprint is the user experience and making people feel like there's a community out there that really does thrive with them being part of it.
Now, for my audience, which my podcast audience is one thing, my YouTube channel audience is focused on new car purchases, but for that kind of crossover there that maybe may not be as familiar with SEMA, I myself have had many friends go and cover it. I personally have not been, but it is on the bucket list. How would you
Yeah.
best summarize what SEMA is to the average enthusiast or the average consumer?
It's an opportunity for an industry to showcase the innovation that they have going on right now and really propelling an industry into the future. So it's what's going to be on cars and trucks and motorcycles in the future. And there's there's this conversation that just happens on the show floor. And it's not necessarily buying and selling. It's more product innovation. Here's what we're coming out with. And when the conversations start to happen, that's really when the industry starts to get forged. And we're really lucky at the SEMA show where we have three different components of the automotive industry coming together. We've got a manufacturing component where, people that make parts. We've got a distribution component. So that's the performance shops and the auto zones and Pep Boys and Napa Auto Parts of the world. But then we also have an end user enthusiast component. And when you can take manufacturing, distribution, and end user and put it all in one place, all in one week, the speed at which the conversations happen is light years ahead of any other environment that we could build. And it really does propel an industry forward for the next 3 to 5 years. So we're unique in that aspect, and we really leverage that for the benefit of the entire industry.
And it seems as though in recent years, many more OEM vehicle manufacturers have taken notice and have started participating at various different levels, whether it's showing off. I know one year Chevy had their the best version of a K5 Blazer we could expect from a brand that does not make a serious off-roader in that segment anymore
Yeah.
there at the show. And so what has it been like seeing the vehicle manufacturers really start to take more interest and lean further into it as well? Because that seems like another component that just adds to the secret sauce, if you will, of what SEMA is.
It definitely does because we're watching the environment that happens from an event standpoint, and there are shows that ebb and flow. And my job really at SEMA is to make sure that we're constantly evolving to keep up with the needs of the marketplace and really what the workforce and the people that are in our community are looking for. But it's nice to watch the vehicle manufacturers come in and have a lot of success. Like last year, Toyota broke a record for them when they debuted the side-by-side Scion. And they had 1.4 billion impressions of the launch of that vehicle within 24 hours. So when you take a company like Toyota that's done events globally, and they tell you that they launched a side-by-side at your event and they had the most views they've ever had of any launch ever, it just makes you feel like you're on this right track. And it gives you this confidence when you're talking to the other vehicle manufacturers of knowing that you're going to be able to deliver a return for them. And that really is what it's all about, is having people come in and show us what they're working on. And like you said, the best version of a K5 Blazer, or, maybe the coolest side by side that's out right now, or a concept vehicle that, we've had from Kia or Hyundai in the past. And it really does ignite the spark of what can be done when people are focused on just improving and progressing, and making things perform better and look better, and just be cooler. So we're really into promoting that part of it, and love the fact that the OEMs are right there, joined at the hip with us.
Yeah, and for many of the aftermarket accessory makers and even the aftermarket shops and things like that, having the OEMs there that serve as the canvas to which everything stems from, it,
Yeah,
having their ear, having their attention, having everyone there under one roof, sounds like an awesome recipe for, like you said, it just accelerates the growth of how quickly things can and do change. I'm pretty sure that's why we're seeing such a surge in off-road enthusiasm now. Why Easter Jeep Safari is so huge. That's because of
yeah,
events like SEMA that are, for lack of a better term, the mecca of car modification culture.
yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And it's one of these things where you don't necessarily know that there's a push behind it if you're not watching what's going on. And we did things, we just recently were successful in convincing some of our lawmakers in our administration to overturn an EV mandate that was in California, as an example. But what it did was it gave people an opportunity to be able to plan for the long term. So our goal there wasn't to not have electric vehicles. Our goal was really to have a choice. So everything from synthetic fuel to hydrogen to electric to ICE engines. But now we have this industry, and off-roading, I think, benefited from that tremendously, is we have this industry that can now plan and go, okay, we know ICE engines are going to be around for a while, and there's now an opportunity to also do electric, and there's torque that happens with electric motors that just doesn't happen anywhere else, right? And our industry is going to take all these options, and they're going to go, okay, I'm going to do Easter Jeep Safari, and I want to go up Chocolate Thunder. What is the best thing I can put in my car that will make it go up that? And that, I think, is what we fight for, is let the vehicle be the canvas, let our industry put the parts on it, and then let the end user go out there and enjoy it, and be able to do the things that they visualize in their head. They'll be able to do that, in real life with the vehicle they own.
So funny that you bring up EVs and Chocolate Thunder in the same breath, because I have done Chocolate Thunder in an EV, and that
Yeah,
is an experience. But yes, I myself, you probably wouldn't believe it, being in East Texas, am not opposed to EVs. I think they serve a great niche. I do feel like the method to which they were forced on, delivered to the public, it was detrimental to their overall growth. And so,
yeah,
yes, seeing that SEMA is able to leverage its size of enthusiasts, of manufacturers, of all its members to say, "Hey, we don't see this as good for the industry as a whole. Let's change this and go back to freedom of choice." Basically, you
yeah,
spoke earlier about the right to modify, and uh, freedom of choice is huge. So yeah, big win on that one. And
yeah.
you've kind of hit on a bunch of things that are leading us in the direction of the conversation on power sports. I can't imagine why, but uh, it seems like there is going to be an expanded power sports focus moving forward with SEMA. What can you share with us in that realm?
Well, Corey, you're going to see a red thread, right, with this answer, and it will make sense why an association like SEMA exists. But we saw another off-road association, ORBA, the Off-Road Business Association, and they defend and protect the use of lands and that type of thing. And we saw an opportunity to acquire them and really exponentially expand the protection that they could bring. And when we acquired Orba, we heard from the power sports community because they were members of ORBA. Um, we heard from them asking sort of, well, what are you guys up to? And they started to really see the value of what SEMA could do from not only legislative and regulatory things and protection of land, but also what we do in our SEMA Garage Product Development Center or SEMA Data, or even with our event, the SEMA Show. So we started to talk to them, and really, again, it was this perfect storm of wanting representation, knowing that we've got a good event, and really being able to expand the marketplace in which they're operating. And then when you look at just the industry as a whole, there's these things that just connect together. So if you're a motorcycle enthusiast, or specifically we'll just say a dirt bike enthusiast, there's a good chance that you own a truck of some sort. And you're needing to go off-roading to be able to get to the place that you're going to go use your dirt bike. And then you take an industry like overlanding. So you've got truck and off-road, and you got overlanding, and you got dirt bikes, and all these things sort of collide together in our trade show. So we thought, okay, well, what would be better than to expand the power sports to include on-road vehicles, on-road motorcycles, all of it. And that's where we are now, is we've got an expanded power sports section, motorcycles, dirt bikes, side-by-sides, directly connected with our truck and off-road section, which is going to, again, be combined in there with overlanding products. And it takes these segments of an industry, and it really puts them together in a place that no other show can do. And it's not that we're necessarily trying to be a vertical solution, but we're this horizontal umbrella that can take a lot of different things with the same user, put them all in one place, and make their time at our event highly efficient, and really, again, propel everything forward with innovation of products.
So, what will power sports look like moving into SEMA for future years? Are we going to see an expanded presence this year? And
We will.
what would that look like physically there at the show?
So physically, it's going to look like there's going to be V-twin parts manufacturers and motorcycles. We're going to have dirt bikes. We're going to have side-by-sides. We're going to have the apparel and the race suits and that type of stuff are going to come into the show kind of in a different manner than they have, but just more expanded. And that part of it is going to be something that just continues to evolve. We've got more motorcycle OEMs than we've ever had. And we're going to start to incorporate more and more of those types of things into what we're doing. When you look at some of our outside areas, we feel there's going to be an opportunity to have ride and drive demos and that type of thing as well. So we're excited to be able to build on it for the future. And we're really going to go into this methodically. We're not just going to go and say, okay, boom, it's this giant thing. We're going to go slowly and take the best components. But we're getting tremendous support from the industry because they're looking at what we're doing. They're seeing the crossover. And then we're also expanding our event into a consumer play. On Friday, we're open to the public now, and that's a new thing coming out of the pandemic. So again, the motorcycle industry and the side-by-side industry is looking for a place to be able to do their B2B, but we're also supplying them thousands and thousands of dealers, but then tens of thousands of end user enthusiasts. So it really is going to be this thing where everything from V-twin motorcycles to dirt bikes to metric bikes to side-by-sides and everything in between are going to be what comprises our power sports section. We're excited to see how it's going to come together.
I'm excited to see it, whether it's firsthand or through all of my peers in the industry, who that is part of their yearly media plan, is to head out there. I am curious, you touched on it a little bit, the outside portion of the show. It's not all just under the cover. You're in Vegas, correct?
We are. Yeah, we're in Las Vegas. This year will be the 3rd through the 6th.
Okay.
And we've got the entire inside of the Las Vegas Convention Center full. And we've got every parking lot that they have also full. And the outside is important to us, Cory, because it's one of those things where as soon as you step onto the campus, you can hear and see and smell and feel our industry alive. And it comes from the activations we have outside and the drifting and, freestyle motocross and that type of stuff that we have outside. And it's an important element for our event because it's more than just products or vehicles or the platform in which the products are displayed. It's more the practical use of those products. And some of our most popular things are the activations we do, or even our SEMA parade at the very end of the show, where we've got over 1,000 vehicles that go in a very orchestrated route around the convention center and down Convention Center Drive in Las Vegas, with 20,000 people watching. And it's this thing where it's like, okay, here's a new build from a builder that they've been working on for months or years. You've got all these new products on it, and you've got this opportunity for people to come together and see it in motion and hear it and feel it. And that part of it is just exciting because, again, it's this electric connection that you make between people. And when somebody lights up and goes, that's how I want to do my Camaro, right? You fell in love with your Camaro. And it brings you this joy, it brings you this memory. When you see those customized, you're like, yeah, that one did it really well. It gets you enthused about your car again. And it really gets you thinking about, what can I do with my daily? How can I change that? How can I really find enjoyment driving to work? And I think that's what our industry is striving to do.
So it really is an all immersive experience from the moment you arrive through hours of show floor inside and outside exploration.
Yeah.
You had mentioned earlier that you are now opening it up to the public on Fridays. When did that start, and how has that evolved? What have you learned from it?
So we learned a lot. And for the most part, I'm going to say it started right after the pandemic. We did a little bit right before the pandemic. But coming out of it, we had an opportunity for people to really be able to buy tickets to what we call this Friday experience. But what we learned was our industry was transitioning. Through the pandemic, the pipeline of product purchases was more streamlined than ever from the manufacturer to the end user. And we saw this change in the need of what our manufacturers at the SEMA show, our exhibitors, if you will, who they were looking to talk to. And it changed a little bit. So the very first year, we had our enthusiasts in a different color badge, and it wasn't connected to the rest of the systems that we had on the B2B side. And we did some focus groups at the end, and our manufacturers said, everything was great. We really enjoyed the show, but the people that came in with the different color badge, we couldn't scan them to follow up with them and share with them some of the new products we're working on. And we said, well, no, that's because that was the end user enthusiasts. Those were the consumers. And they said, yeah, we want to talk to those people too. And that ratio of that has started to improve year after year after year. So we still have it only open on Friday, but we've started to expand, where we created an event called SEMA Fest. And SEMA Fest is something that is automotive and music combined. And it happens on Friday, and we've got these top level bands that come. We've had everybody from Imagine Dragons and Sublime and Cage the Elephant. And it really is this opportunity to see what would happen if we took passion for automobiles and passion for motorcycles and just our industry in general, and then passion for music and combine them. And it really is exponentially taken off where we're able to just celebrate this lifestyle,
Yeah.
if you will, in the automotive community. But we make it easy too, Cory. Like, if you don't come, or some of your users aren't able to come, we produced something called SEMA Live, which is a 31-hour long live stream of the SEMA Show. And we treat it a little bit like Sports Center meets the SEMA Show, where there's a desk, um, and Chris Jacobs is at that desk, but then we have three roving reporters that go through the show, and they're doing everything outside, inside, interviewing people, and seeing the celebrities and all the magic that happens at the SEMA Show. You're able to watch and see that happen. And one of the reasons we did that was, we wanted to share with the world what happens in the confines of the convention center. But at the same time, it's to give people an opportunity to see what's going on and go, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, I want to be part of that. And we're seeing benefit from that from both the B2B side and the B2C side. So again, excited to just be able to share it with everybody. And that really wasn't the case 6 or 7 years ago. It was B2B only. And now we're seeing the industry changed. So part of our evolution was to change along with it.
So the show is coming up. What are the show dates again?
We're going to be November 3rd through the 6th. And then SEMA Fest is on the 6th
Okay.
of November.
And how would one, whether they are a manufacturer, a business in the space, or an end consumer wanting to come on Friday, how does one interact with getting tickets, making sure that they're not left behind? Uh, Registration, I assume, is opening fairly soon, correct?
It is. And we would, we're going to look really smart if we can just mention AI somehow on this call, right? So if people are
Absolutely.
looking for us, they can check AI and find out. But really what we've got set up is a SEMA Show website and a SEMA Fest website. And again, you can find all this just through a search like SEMA Show consumer, if you're a consumer. And it will bring you to either our SEMA Show website or SEMA Fest. And then if you're on the B2B side, SEMA Show has our whole registration system built into that. But that's really where all the information is. And then we have another website, SEMA.org, that really is our association, but they're all connected together. But at the end of the day, May the 4th is going to be when we're going to launch a lot of things. We're launching our registration for the B2B side. We're going to launch our Friday Experience ticket, which is our consumer ticket for the show. And we're also doing our SEMA Fest announcement as well. So on May the 4th, if you want to be the first person to have a ticket or a badge to the show, that's your opportunity to do it. We're going to go all summer long registering people. At the end of it, we'll probably have somewhere around 165,000 people registered for the show. So you can imagine what that's like. But we're going to announce our bands this year in July for SEMA Fest. We'll announce some of our keynote speakers for the show, again, as we go along in the summer. So right now we're launching registration on May the 4th. Check out our websites if you want to be part of that. But again, it's where we start. And then we really just push all the way to November 3rd. We open our doors and 160,000 people come in, and the industry figures out what it's going to look like in 5 years.
You joked when you jumped on the call. You already know how many days until the show opens. You are less than a month away from registration opening. So again, from my past life of planning events, I know that your life is about to be crazy moving forward until the show ends. You get a little breather and then all back again, right?
Yeah. No, and we work on multiple shows at the same time,
Right.
especially like this past construction. So I've already got 27 and to a certain extent 28 on the planning cycle.
Nice.
But we're going to go really deep into our planning for 26, also starting on May the 4th. And it's a fascinating thing to watch. But we have a blank floor plan right now, and we're going to have 2,000 exhibitors participate in a space drawing. And it's like Tetris meets
An auction?
the NFL
Yeah.
draft. And companies come in one at a time and they pick their space, and we draw the floor plan as we go. So you're able to watch it. You can go to our website and find a link where you can see our floor plan. It's updated every 15 minutes. And our manufacturers call in one at a time, and we'll place, in the period of 2 weeks, we'll place 2,000 people on that floor plan. And you can watch the SEMA show go from an empty hall to a million plus net square feet of exhibit space and 2,000 companies. And you can just watch it all happen. And we've got a lot of people that do that. So we make it very user-friendly in that respect, like we talked about earlier. But if you want to see us build the show, it's right there in front of everybody on SEMAShow.com.
Well, you are absolutely taking advantage of all the modern technologies. I'm sure you'll weave AI in there somewhere. So there we go.
Yeah, that sounds smart, Cory. Come on.
There's our AI quota for this episode. But Tom, I appreciate you coming on, spending the time to help educate the consumers, not only about the SEMA Show and what it stands for, what it means for the end consumers, but also sharing a little bit of your past, your passion, and kind of how you got here. So I do thank you for that.
No, I love it. And I think you can tell I get passionate about events, which is a weird thing to be passionate about, but I'm locked in on that. And let's help you take some stuff off your bucket list. If you have an opportunity to come, or anybody listening, we do make it easy to attend. And when you come, I'll tell you this, you're not going to forget your first time. And it'll be something that you'll always want to come back and do again.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Cory.
So huge thanks to Tom, to the team over at SEMA for continuing to produce fantastic content at the SEMA Show. SEMA Fest sounds awesome. All of it sounds awesome. I am jealous. I have a lot of my industry friends that make the pilgrimage out to Vegas every fall to cover the show, to cover what's new, and to kind of help show where the industry is going. He and I both alluded to it in the conversation. OEMs have taken notice of SEMA and are really starting to change the landscape of the industry and exactly what it looks like. So we will have down in the show notes all the details to register, to attend, to be part of it yourself if you're in that space. But as always, you can go to gtgaragetalk.com and find out all that we're doing there. Until next time, gearheads. Bye.